there's a crisis in this country with young men. A lot of the mental health issues that are happening with young men. I personally think that what these young men need is feminism. Because when I'm down in Limerick speaking to lads that I know who are suffering from mental health issues, when I actually speak to them and get to the core of what's bothering you, man, what they always say to me is, I have nothing to offer a woman. I have nothing. How am I supposed to provide for a woman?
Well, that's silly. I mean, feminists only seem to be primarily concerned with men helping them get a higher social status in life anyway, so I don't really see why feminists would care or even give slightly a damn about men feeling like they can't offer anything to women. I mean, if anything, it would seem that feminists would be more willing to reject those kinds of men because they find out those men aren't really good allies. I don't know, I just don't really think that feminism is the solution you're looking for. Especially not considering that it's pretty much the cause of the problem anyway. No, I'll go into more detail in just a second.
The fact of the matter is that is a patriarchal attitude that is no longer relevant to us in the 21st century.
That is by far one of the dumbest statements I have ever heard anyone say in my entire life. Truly, and I'm not being inflammatory. I'm not trying to be, contrarian. I'm not trying to over-exaggerate. I'm being serious. That is an insanely stupid point that he just made. I mean, like, in order to come to that conclusion, you have to, like, spend your whole life never, ever, ever trying to date a woman ever. I mean, seriously, where do you think these men got the idea that it's a problem that they don't have anything to offer to a woman? You think they just woke up on a Saturday afternoon like, oh, shit, I can't provide for a woman, that means I'm nothing. No! They got this idea from trying to date women and being rejected because they don't have anything to offer to said woman. It's not even so much a feminism thing, it's just kind of, that's just the nature of women in general. And now, of course, there's probably going to be some comment from some lady saying, well, look, I'm totally fine with my husband not providing or my boyfriend not protecting. You know what, listen, I have no doubt that women like that exist. I don't think that you're not alive. However, I also am not going to pretend that the vast majority of women are not individuals who want to be with men that provide for them, because they are. I mean, hell, if they weren't, women wouldn't ask that men make as much or more money than them. And they also wouldn't be attracted to men who are bigger and taller and stronger than they are. And they also wouldn't be attracted to men who are more dominant than they are. So, and they also wouldn't be... Look, I can go on and on all day about this. Look, the fact remains, a lot of these men feel that pressure because of women. And feminism isn't really helping that cause in any particular way either. I'll explain more in just a second. Just bear with me.
Neoliberalism has made it in such a way that if you're to go out and buy a house and have a living with a woman, you must be equal. It's as simple as that. So if young men are carrying around this faulty view that they must provide for a woman, forget about it. It can't happen. So...
No, he's right. He's right. It can't happen. And that in and of itself is indeed the conundrum. That is indeed itself the core of the problem there. But he doesn't see it. But I see it. I'll explain it. Just calm down. Shoot.
I would say to any young men out there, feminism is not about females being powerful. It's about redressing a balance, and it's about equality. And feminism is a very necessary thing for young men to have.
And therein, my friends, lies the problem. The problem here is that women think that if they raise their own social status, that they too will then find men who are also of a higher social status. It's a totally asinine idea when you really think about it. It's totally asinine for a number of things that a lot of women don't know, and so I guess I can't completely blame them for it. But feminism has given women this idea that they have to continue to grow and be better and earn lots of money, and provide for themselves and be independent. Right, now, the interesting thing about that dichotomy of trying to create, the strong, independent women, I don't need no man, is the fact that it becomes diametrically opposed to, interestingly enough, the core of what being a man is to a woman, and that is an individual that takes care of his responsibilities and protects the people around him, or takes care of the women in his life. So if a strong, independent woman is one that doesn't need a man, and a strong man or a good man is a man that serves women and protects them and provides for them, then you've created two scenarios that cannot coexist at one particular time. They're diametrically opposed to one another. Being a real man is a man who takes care of a woman, but being a real woman is a woman that doesn't need to be taken care of by a man. Then you can't have a real man or a real woman at the same time. They cannot coexist.
So because feminism has created this idea that women need to make more money and become more powerful in different social areas, which actually is not a problem in and of itself. The issue itself isn't so much that women are getting into higher places in society and trying to make more money. That's not really the issue. The issue is this concept known as hypergamy, which I'm sure some people understand. If you don't, it's just basically women's desire to find the best man they can, or find a man that's in a higher social status than they are. A lot of women, again, they might say they want a man that's on equal level, but that's bare minimum. What women really want, in general, is to find men that make more money than them. So the more money a woman makes, the higher social status a woman obtains, the more she desires from the men around her. Now, this is totally fucking asinine. There wouldn't be enough men at the higher upper echelon of society in order to compensate for the amount of women that exist at all, because one, there are just less men overall, at least in America. I mean, in China, that's a totally different story, but at least, you know, in America, in the Western world, there's just less men in the world than there are women. So even if a lot of men had equal standing with women, completely equal, or even if men had totally higher standards of women than all the women around them, it still would not be an equal. There still would not be an equal amount of women finding men to date and marry, because there's just not enough men, literally. So the problem, again, and the problem isn't even so much hypergamy as it is like just straight arrogance that comes from a lot of women. A lot of women certainly overvalue themselves too much. And honestly, I'm gonna be inflammatory. I'm gonna criticize. This is the fault of men. Anyone know something? Look, I'm guilty of this too. I have inflated the egos of women I've tried to date. I am a part of that problem as well. I have been. But a lot of men give way too much shit to women, and it bolsters their ego. So women think that they deserve more than they really do, again, in general. Are there some great women in the world that need to be with good men? Certainly. I'm not saying that that isn't a thing. What I am saying is that when it comes to the vast majority of people encounter each other, there are a lot of women who just think they're way too good for the men around them. And a lot of men feel that pressure. They feel it, they understand it because they try to date them. And it causes a great degree of depression and sadness because they've attributed their own value to what they can give to a woman. And that's a huge cycle that I think is a gigantic part of what feminism has caused in our society. So I don't really think that feminism is certainly the answer to the problem that it created. It's just, if anything, it's just going to make the problem worse. Because now at this point, you're giving these men false hope and a false understanding of the world around them. These men are correct. These men are right to come to the conclusion they don't have anything to offer to the women they're trying to date, because the women themselves don't feel it. They don't want to date those men. I mean, because here's the thing: if these women did want to date these men, if these women were totally fine with paying for these men's dinner, taking care of these men, you know, letting them be stay-at-home dads, they would be in relationships with them. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I'm not. Again, a lot of people say this is inflammatory, this is sexism, this is, you know, all that bullshit. But again, reality proves me to be correct. So if you're mad, you're just gonna have to be mad. You're just gonna have to find some way to accept reality. Shit.
And if you want to know, if you think you're a feminist, let a woman pay for your dinner and see how you feel about that.
Man, shit. I wish a woman would pay for my dinner. You would not see me upset about that. Be like this. No, don't worry, baby. I got it. Oh, you do? Shit. Fuck can I get? Can I get some shit? I mean, seriously, I don't even think a lot of men are even upset or sad about the whole not being able to be a provider thing. I think the real issue is understanding that they can't be a provider means they can't get the thing they really want, which is the love and affection from a woman. I think that's really the problem. That's the barrier. I don't think a lot of men really would be upset with their lack of ability to earn money as long as the woman loved and cared about them. But see, that in and of itself is the conundrum. Because the interesting thing about the way a lot of women perceive their relationship to men, and a lot of women probably don't even realize this is what they're doing, but they look at men as more as a means to an end rather than the ends to themselves. They look at men as something or someone to get shit for them versus as someone to be with, as someone to date. So because women have that relationship with men in general, not all women, see how annoying that gets when I say, no, okay, just work on the assumption that I don't mean all women of ever. Just a lot of them. Okay, please, thank you. So because a lot of women view their relationship with men as people to give them things or to be someone to obtain shit for them, a lot of men who have that understanding know if I can't give shit to this woman, I'm not going to be with her. And to be fair, Is this really even the way you would like to perceive your own personal value as a man? I would argue not. I would argue that this is the absolute worst way to view yourself, especially in this current climate when you have a bunch of arrogant women, and especially nowadays when the idea of being a strong woman is diametrically opposed to being what they perceive as a strong man. It actually just doesn't make any sense when you start putting thought into it. Continue.
Cool with that, you're a feminist. If you're not, you need to look at yourself. And it's going to come back and bite you in the hole in the end.
The idea of... yeah. I wonder, are we getting better at that, just to dwell on that for a moment? Are we getting better at the idea of the equality of not saying, how do I provide for a woman? That to me now almost feels like an old-fashioned
sentiment. It is outdated, yeah.
Outdated or not, my friend. That is what women want. And if you're not going to provide it to them, then some other man is. Really, if the real person you should be addressing this to is not to other men, but to other women. I'm just saying, you should really talk to women about that, since they're the ones that pick and choose. So.
But we know this consciously.
But it's still in there, is it?
But yet it's still there because...
even among the 20-somethings?
Absolutely, it's still there because their parents had it.
Yes, exactly. Their parents had that because that's how women selected the men in their life. Usually. Usually. And again, you can argue with me about this. You can be mad, you can be upset, but if you're a woman watching this, ask yourself, will I be with a man that makes less money than me? Will I be with a man that will be a stay-at-home father? Will I be with a man that won't protect me? Will I be with a man that's shorter than me, that's smaller? Will you date a man like that? Because if the answer is no to those questions, then you've proven my point, and you have to accept that that's the reality that you as a woman and women around you have created for men. And I don't think that for a second a lot of women want to change that reality, because honestly, I mean, if again, when you stop and think about it, I mean, this is pretty fucking great for women. I mean, if I'm a woman and I can find a man that will do shit for me, well, why would I want that to stop? The only reason you would ever want that to stop is if you cared about the emotional health of the men around you. So I'm just saying.
Yeah.
There was, like, in the 60s and 70s, like, it wasn't acceptable for women to work in Irish society in the 60s.
Yeah.
Some of them were like, you get married and, like, you have a job and you're married, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Because De Valera wanted the land of comely maidens looking after their families. So we still have this hanging around, but it's on an unconscious level. Misogynism. Young men use misogynism and objectification to women. They do this so they can avoid a meaningful relationship.
No, I don't know. I think that's silly. I think the only reason a lot of women, like, even encounter those men... Actually, I made a whole video series about this. Well, I never finished the video series, but I made videos about this topic in particular. So it'll take me a long time to dissect it, but the brass tacks is, a lot of women are not really even so much attracted to these guys who use, well, I guess the real word is misogyny, or a lot of women are not even attracted, they don't even actually like these men, which is the most hilarious thing to me that I always think is interesting. The true goal of any woman that's dating a man like that treats them badly is not to be with that shitty man, it's to change him into a good man. You know, she thinks that if this man changes his hatred of women for her, then that makes her special in some capacity. Which, in all honesty, it would. However, the foolishness is that a woman thinks she can do that with the power of her vagina, not so much with the power of her character. That's really when it breaks down, and even more so, it breaks down even more when you think, you know, deep-seated psychological hatred of another sex is not going to be solved with just one. It's just not. It's going to be solved with the root of that problem. So that's why those relationships break down and fail. That's why a lot of women will encounter men that don't like them or hate them. The objective is to change that man into what they perceive as a good man. And I've made videos about that. If you want to see them, just ask. I'll show it to you. So yeah, I find this video to be particularly interesting. It's a very short clip, and I've made a mountain out of it, but I still think that even in that tightly packed 2-minute piece of bullshit, there's a lot of information that is just misinforming young men. It's just not important in really fixing the problem. It's interesting to me that he says that we should fix the problem that feminism caused by just adding more feminism. I mean, that's the silliest thing ever. You know, you don't get bitten by a rattlesnake, look at that shit and say, oh, well, I think I should get bitten by another rattlesnake. That'll certainly fix the problem here. Right? You don't catch a cold from being outside too long and then say, oh, I think I'll go back outside. Yeah, that's reasonable. You don't add to the problem if you want to fix it. But I guess he just doesn't perceive that as the problem because he hasn't come to terms with the fact that the reality is setting on these men in Ireland, and not just Ireland, but I mean even in America too, that if they're not providing to a woman, if they're not offering anything to a woman, the woman is not going to view them as valuable, and they're not going to be able to date that woman. That is the core of the issue here. And women themselves either have to make a decision to change and be different and to accept the emotional nature of men and accept men as into themselves, to love the man himself, not what he can do for her, or to just leave shit as it is. But see, even then, I think a lot of women are going to have to come to terms with the fact that that's how they are, because a lot of women are just going to end up lonely and miserable because that's how they view their relationship with men. If a lot of women truly and genuinely cared about the emotional nature of a man, they wouldn't solely think just about his ability to provide. I mean, it certainly is important if you want to have children. I mean, it is important. I'm not saying it isn't. What I'm saying is it shouldn't be the whole of his existence that relates to your relationship, because there's more to being a father to your children than simply just having money. I've had friends who hate their fathers, even though their fathers had lots of money, even though their fathers, gave them a house and everything. Their father never gave them the emotional stability that they needed to become a strong adult. And that is an important element that completely gets lost on how men relate to their own children, how men relate to relationships with women. And so, I mean, when women are just solely looking at men as just things to get shit for me, which is just the brass tacks, and they're going to cover it up. No woman's ever going to say that that's how she feels. A lot of women probably won't even realize that's her relationship to men. However, as long as a woman looks at a man as something to either make me feel good about myself or something to get me shit, then other men are going to feel that pressure, and it's going to make them sad and depressed when they realize they can't get to it. Which then leads me to the next point, which is truly the solution for a lot of men, is to understand that your value is not contingent upon how a woman feels about you. A lot of men need to learn and understand that you have more to fucking offer to anyone and everyone in the world than just some woman that doesn't even like you as a person, that doesn't care about you as a human being and your emotional state. There's so much more that comes to being a man and being an honorable man than just, I need to get shit for women. And I think that is one thing that would truly be the solution to these men's issue, and not more feminism. You don't put more poison when you're trying to dilute poison. That doesn't make any sense. So with that being said, man, I certainly hope you guys got something out of today's video. And if you did, man, go ahead, click that like button. And shoot, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Comment in the comment box below. As always, you guys have yourselves a great day. I'll see you cool cats soon. Adios.